This one's called My Fiancée Dumped Me After Her Sister Convinced Her I Was Beneath Her, but She Came Crawling Back Later, Full of Regret. It doesn't cost a thing, takes just a second, and it really helps us keep bringing you stories like this one. Your support seriously means everything. Let's keep growing this thing together. Huge thanks in advance. Alright, let's get into it. I'm using a throwaway account for this because people I know follow my main, and honestly, this whole thing is still pretty raw. Also, fair warning, I'm typing this on my phone at 4 a.m. because sleep isn't really happening tonight, so apologies if the formatting looks like a hot mess. I guess the best place to start is with a little background about me, since it kind of sets the stage for how this whole mess unraveled. I'm a 28-year-old guy, born and raised in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I grew up in what you'd probably call a regular middle-class household. My dad ran a small but solid plumbing company that he built from the ground up, literally started with just himself and a van. These days, he's got a crew of about 15 guys. My mom, on the other hand, was one of those teachers everyone in the neighborhood knew, the sweet elementary school kind who always had a smile and a story to share. We weren't rolling in money or anything, but my folks always preached the value of hard work and being smart with your finances. That probably explains how I ended up working as a financial advisor. I get it, not the most exciting career path. When I tell people what I do at parties, their eyes tend to glaze over faster than a donut at a cops convention. But the truth is, I really enjoy what I do. There's something pretty damn rewarding about helping everyday folks get their money sorted and build toward a future they can actually feel good about. Plus, the pay isn't too shabby, especially after I made partner at my firm last year. Anyway, back in the summer of 2017, my buddy Mike threw this giant barbecue to show off his new house. You know the type of party, grill going nonstop, coolers jammed with craft beer because apparently we're classy adults now and someone always shows up with a guitar nobody asked for. I almost bailed because I had a stack of client reports to finish, but Mike threatened to physically drag me there if I flaked. That's where I met Lena. And holy hell, y'all. Ever have one of those moments where you lock eyes with someone across the yard and suddenly everything else just fades into the background? That's exactly how it felt when I spotted her laughing near the fire pit. She had these stunning green eyes and she was wearing a simple sundress, but somehow she still managed to stand out like the sun in a cloudy sky. Turned out Lena worked in marketing for a downtown tech startup. Wicked smart, could talk about anything under the sun, and had this hilarious obsession with true crime podcasts that I found strangely adorable. We ended up talking until 4 a.m. just hanging out on Mike's back porch while the rest of the party either crashed or called it a night. Things escalated pretty quickly after that. Within a year, we moved in together, mostly because we were already spending every night at one place or the other anyway, and it just made sense financially. What can I say, the financial advisor in me couldn't resist a good cost-saving move, lol. I proposed last summer during a trip to Traverse City. I went full-on romance mode with the beach, the sunset, the whole shebang. She cried. I cried. Even some strangers clapped. It felt like something out of a movie. Life with her? It was everything I'd ever hoped for. We fell into this perfect little rhythm. I'd wake up early to make breakfast, eventually mastered this French toast recipe that Lena swore beat her mom's. Her mom actually agreed, which I still brag about. We'd sip coffee, chat about the day ahead, then head off to work. Our evenings were for cooking dinner together, dancing around to 80s hits. She got me hooked on Tears for Fears or binge-watching whatever show we were into at the time. But the weekends? Those were the best part. We'd do these little road trips to random towns across Michigan, hunting for hidden gems, restaurants, goofy roadside attractions, that kind of stuff. We even discovered this pie shop in the middle of nowhere that we loved so much we'd drive an hour just to get a slice. Other weekends, we'd hang out at home, tend to the garden. I got way into growing vegetables during COVID, or host board game nights with friends. We were the couple everyone pointed to and said, relationship goals. You know, the kind that genuinely liked spending time together, not just posting curated selfies to keep up appearances online. Sure, we argued now and then, but it was over dumb stuff, whose turn it was to clean the bathroom or whether pineapple belongs on pizza. It does. Don't it me? We had big plans for the future, too. Already picked out a few potential wedding venues, started touring houses in this cute neighborhood close to my office, even tossed around baby names, though we both agreed kids could wait a few years. Lena had a whole Pinterest board packed with ideas for our dream home, fancy kitchen island, a cozy reading nook by a bay window, the works. I was putting money aside to make those dreams real. But now, looking back, I wonder if it was all just too perfect. You ever hear that saying, if something feels too good to be true, it probably is? Yeah. Turns out that applies to love too. Just when I thought I had it all figured out, when everything seemed to finally be falling into place, Lena's sister Tessa decided to drop in for a surprise visit. Before I get into the absolute train wreck that followed, you need to understand who Tessa is. Think of the most over-the-top influencer you've ever seen. Now crank that up by 1,000 and toss in a massive superiority complex. That's Tessa. While Lena and I were building a life together in our cozy Michigan apartment with our rescue cat, Mr. Nibbles, yeah, I know the name's basic, but it came with him, Tessa was out in Miami living what she called her best life. Translation, posting endless Instagram stories about her entrepreneur hustle, all while living off their parents' money. Look, I've got nothing against people getting help from their folks, just be upfront about it, you know? Tessa was 31, but you'd swear she was still living in her college years. Her Instagram bio literally said, CEO of Living Life, with a sparkle emoji, no joke. She was selling these absurdly overpriced workout plans online, like $399 for a glorified PDF full of exercises you could easily find on YouTube for free. But somehow she'd racked up 54,000 followers who treated her like a lifestyle guru. Her entire feed was flooded with boss babe slogans and manifest your dream life quotes. Total cliché. It was like toxic positivity dressed up in filters and fake smiles. What really messed with my head though was how different Lena became when Tessa wasn't around. On her own, Lena was down-to-earth, sharp, and genuinely funny, the kind of person who could talk about real stuff, not just surface-level nonsense. She volunteered at the animal shelter on weekends, knew every single neighbor by name, and always checked in on our elderly neighbor, Mrs. Johnson, especially when she wasn't feeling well. Brought her soup and everything. She just had a good heart, you know? The kind of goodness that isn't loud or flashy, it's just there, real and steady. But man, whenever Tessa breezed into town, it was like someone flipped a switch in Lena's head. She'd start talking different, like she was trying to perform for an invisible camera crew. Out came all these cringy influencer phrases, manifest your truth, align your energy, don't settle for small vibes. I couldn't tell if she was talking to me or hosting a live stream. Suddenly, everything about our life seemed to make her self-conscious. She'd nitpick our apartment, complain about her job, even second-guess her clothes. I'll never forget the day she literally broke down crying because we didn't have one of those cheesy neon signs that say good vibes only in our living room. I mean, seriously? I tried to be patient. I really did. I know how messy sibling dynamics can be. Lena was the youngest of 3. Her brother Eric's actually a great guy. He teaches high school over in Chicago and always treated me with respect. But Tessa? Tessa had always been the wild one. While Lena was busting her but to earn straight A's, Tessa was sneaking out of the house to hit parties. When Lena was grinding her way through the marketing world, Tessa was off in Bali, finding herself, which basically meant posing in bikinis while quoting the Dalai Lama underneath. The real trouble started about 6 months before things blew up. Tessa had just dumped her latest boyfriend, some crypto clown named Logan. No joke, that was his actual name. And suddenly she decided it was her mission to enlighten Lena. She started firing off these long-winded text rants about how marriage was just some outdated trap built to suppress women and how settling down in your 20s was like giving up on life. At first, Lena would laugh it off. She'd show me the texts and we'd joke about how ridiculous they were. It was a running gag between us. But then Tessa cranked it up a notch. She started sending articles about divorce statistics, tagging Lena in Instagram posts with captions like, "You weren't born to settle," and "Choose freedom, not comfort." It was like she was planting little seeds of doubt every single day, and over time, those seeds started to take root. I remember one night in particular about 2 months before everything unraveled. We were having dinner. Tessa had shown up unannounced, acting like Miami to Michigan was just a quick trip around the block. She spent the whole meal bragging about rooftop parties, dating rich guys, and her networking events, which sounded a whole lot like more rooftop parties. Then, out of nowhere, she turned to Lena with this fake-ass look of concern and said, "Don't you miss having adventures, sis? Don't you want more than just this?" She waved her hand around, dismissing the home we'd built together like it was some sad little dollhouse. I felt my blood start to boil, but Lena just sat there, silently picking at her food, looking like someone had kicked her in the gut. That moment still eats at me. I should have stood up for us. Should have called out Tessa for the manipulative, judgmental crap she was spewing. But I didn't. I didn't want to cause a scene or make Lena uncomfortable. I honestly believed she wouldn't fall for Tessa's BS. Lena had always been the grounded one. Just that weekend, we'd been joking about wedding flowers and laughing over how neither of us wanted anything too Insta-worthy. I thought we were solid. God, I was so damn naive. What hurts the most, looking back, is how many signs I missed. The way Lena started spending more time scrolling through Instagram. How quiet she got after her phone calls with Tessa. The sudden interest in guided meditations and manifestation journals. It felt like I was watching someone slowly get pulled into a cult. Except this cult was being run by her own sister. Even now, months later, it's hard to write about this part. But I owe you the full truth, so here it is. It was a Wednesday in May and spring was finally starting to creep into Michigan. I remember being weirdly excited that morning because I could leave the house in just a light jacket. That's how good life felt. The night before, Lena and I had stayed up late planning our honeymoon. We were thinking of doing a road trip through the Pacific Northwest, just us, the open road, and all these quirky little towns and national parks. She was giddy about the weird roadside attractions like the world's largest ball of twine. We were the kind of couple, sappy and nerdy and happy as hell. That morning felt so normal it almost hurts thinking about it now. I woke up at 6:30, same as always, let Mr. Nibbles out of the bedroom. He's got this little routine where he sleeps by our feet and started on breakfast. French toast day, Lena's favorite. I'd gotten the recipe down to a science by then. Thick brioche, extra cinnamon, a splash of vanilla, and this incredible maple syrup we picked up from a family farm during our last road trip. Lena came downstairs in that soft blue sweater I'd given her for Christmas. She looked fine. Maybe a little tired, but hey, it was a Tuesday morning. Who isn't dragging a little? We ate together, chatted about the show we'd started the night before. She kissed me goodbye, told me she loved me, and headed to work. I stood there for a second afterward thinking how lucky I was, how good life felt. And right then, right in that moment of quiet happiness, life wound up and punched me square in the gut. The day at work was nothing special. A couple client meetings, lunch with a buddy, some emails. I even sent Lena a few random memes that made me think of her. She left them on read, but I figured she was just busy. Around 3 p.m. she texted saying she was leaving early because she wasn't feeling well. I offered to grab her favorite soup from that Vietnamese spot she loves. She just said, no thanks. That should have been my first real clue. Lena never says no to pho when she's sick. I got home around 6 and something felt off. You know that feeling when you step into a room and can just feel that something bad's waiting for you? Like the air's too heavy or the silence is too loud. That was the vibe. Thick, still, wrong. Lena was on the couch, halfway through a bottle of wine, which she never touches during the day unless something's seriously wrong. Her eyes looked vacant, like the lights were on but nobody was home. She wouldn't even look at me. Mr. Nibbles didn't come to the door like usual, either. That cat always greets me. Always. Then she said it, those 4 words that send a cold shiver down your spine, we need to talk. And just like that, my stomach dropped into my shoes. Let's be real, nobody says we need to talk and follows it up with, you're getting a puppy. I sat down across from her, still in my work clothes, still clutching my laptop bag like it was gonna shield me from whatever was coming next. What's going on? I asked, even though deep down I already knew. The signs had been there for weeks, I just didn't want to believe what they were pointing to. She took another long sip of wine and said, I've been doing a lot of thinking. Her voice was flat, like she was reciting something rehearsed. About life. About what I really want. Her hands were doing these weird floaty gestures. Stuff I'd only ever seen Tessa do. And then she dropped the bomb. I don't think I can do this anymore. Do what? I asked, like a total idiot, pretending I didn't understand what she meant, even though her eyes had already told me everything I needed to know. This, she said, waving her hand around like she was dismissing our entire life together. The wedding, this apartment, us. Her eyes skimmed over the room. The same room we'd built together, full of little memories. The dumb ceramic penguin we found in that thrift store. The framed pictures from all our road trips. Our wedding planning binder, still open on the coffee table. It's all starting to feel like suffocation. And then came the part that really knocked the wind out of me. She said she'd been talking to Tessa a lot lately. That Tessa had helped her realize what she was missing in life. That she needed to find herself before she could be with someone else. It was like she was reading off a damn script. Every tired breakup cliché, but peppered with Tessa's Instagram jargon. She kept saying stuff like, living authentically, and aligning with my truth. At one point, she looked me dead in the eyes and said, I need to know who Lena is before I can be Lena plus someone else. I wanted to scream, you are Lena. You're the woman who gets overly emotional during dog food commercials, who can't stand cilantro, who listens to so many true crime podcasts it freaks me out. But I didn't say any of that. I just sat there in stunned silence, watching the last 5 years of my life disintegrate while she rambled on about personal growth and spiritual alignment, like some third-rate guru. And the worst part? She'd already packed. While I was out, genuinely thinking about what kind of soup would make her feel better, she was shoving her life into a suitcase. She said she was moving in with Tessa for a little while, just until she got some clarity. Before she walked out, she pulled off her engagement ring. My grandmother's ring, the one passed down through generations, and casually dropped it on the coffee table. No words, no emotion, just left it there like it was some cheap trinket from a vending machine. I stayed frozen for hours after she left, just staring at that ring like it might explain something. Mr. Nibbles finally crept out from wherever he'd been hiding and curled up in my lap, purring softly like he could tell I needed something, anything, to hold on to. The French toast dishes from that morning were still in the sink. Her favorite coffee mug, the one with the little foxes I gave her our first Christmas, was still in the dishwasher. Everything looked like our life, but it didn't feel like it anymore. And you want to know the most messed up part? That very night, while I was sitting in our apartment trying to figure out how everything had just collapsed, Lena was already posting on Instagram. Nothing direct, of course. Just one of those cryptic quotes about choosing yourself and new beginnings. Filtered with a sunset, naturally. Real classy. In the days that followed, I spiraled. I went through the whole damn grief cycle in 2 days flat. First came denial. I stayed up until 4 a.m. just sitting on the couch, convinced she'd come walking back through the door, say it was all some big misunderstanding. Then came the rage. I won't lie. I smashed that tacky good vibes only mug she loved so much. Felt good. Zero regrets. Depression hit like a freight train after that. I called in sick for 2 days, parked myself on the couch with Mr. Nibbles and leftover Chinese takeout, just trying to feel something. Then, something strange happened. You know how Netflix pops up with that "Are you still watching?" screen after hours of binging? I clicked yes, for like the 10th time when I noticed something weird. Lena was still logged into our shared account. Under Continue Watching, there was a show I didn't recognize, and it had been watched around 2 a.m. at someone else's place. That's when it hit me. The woman who, less than a week ago, was planning wedding colors and booking Airbnbs for our honeymoon was already Netflix and chilling with another dude. And yeah, maybe I'd had a couple beers. Maybe I was being self-destructive. But I went full detective mode. First stop, Instagram. Her main account was exactly what you'd expect. Cryptic captions about healing, empowerment, rising from the ashes, plus some selfies with Tessa at Miami nightclubs. The whole post-breakup PR campaign. But then I remembered something. Lena had this weird habit of making separate Insta accounts for her hobbies. One for books she'd read, one for her cooking experiments, even one for tracking her running progress. So I had a hunch. When you use the same email for multiple Instagram accounts, the app links them all behind the scenes and starts suggesting them when you search. I tried a few combinations of usernames she often used, and bam, I found it. A secret account. Private, of course. But she'd used the same password she used for everything, her mom's name and her birth year. I told her to change it 100 times. What I saw when I logged in made my stomach turn. It was like watching a car wreck in slow motion, except the car was my relationship and it had been burning for months without me even noticing. The account was full of DMs between Lena and Tessa going all the way back to January. They'd been planning this escape from suburban life like it was some sort of jailbreak movie. Tessa kept sending her long, gushing messages about how proud she was that Lena was finally waking up and choosing freedom. And then there were screenshots of conversations with a guy named Miles. Some finance bro Tessa had introduced her to at a party back in February when Lena told me she was visiting her parents. The messages made me physically sick. They weren't flat out cheating, but they were everything just short of it. What if we'd met first? What if I wasn't engaged? Flirty emojis. Inside jokes. Stuff that made my skin crawl. Meanwhile, I'm back home planning surprise date nights, growing tomatoes, trying to figure out the best spot in the yard for a hammock. Like a damn fool. But here's the real gut punch. All those nights Lena said she was working late or having girls' night with her coworkers. She was on video calls with Tessa and her Miami crew, mapping out her big glow-up. They had an actual group chat, Lena's Liberation. They talked shit about me. About how boring our life was. About how I lacked ambition and didn't vibe with the vision. Whatever that means. They even made a freaking spreadsheet. I'm serious. Tabs for everything, clubs to check out, guys to meet, and yeah. Miles wasn't the only one. They had a whole section labeled Glow Up Schedule with appointments for hair extensions, manicures, and something called tooth gems. Had to Google that one. Turns out it's basically bedazzling your damn teeth. Apparently, tooth gems are like little rhinestones for your teeth. Because, nothing says I'm spiritually aligned like putting jewelry on your molars. But there was one conversation from March that I just couldn't get out of my head. Lena had posted this photo of us at my nephew's birthday party. We were both covered in cake. My 4-year-old nephew thought it would be hilarious to start a food fight, and honestly, it kind of was. We were laughing, having fun, just being two people genuinely enjoying the moment. In their private chat, Tessa had commented on it. Ugh, you look so basic here. Can't wait until you're living your best life with us instead of playing house in the suburbs. Lena's reply? Just a few more months of pretending. That line hit me like a punch to the chest. A few more months of pretending. While I was out here dreaming about our future, picking out houses in neighborhoods with good schools because she always said she wanted kids, she was counting down the days until she could walk away. I was mapping out our life. She was planning her exit. And the part that gutted me? Right around the time she was flirting with Miles and telling Tessa how trapped she felt, she was also out trying on wedding dresses with her mom. Crying happy tears in front of the mirror. Captioning it, "Can't wait to marry my best friend." That was the same day she was messaging Miles about how confused she was about her feelings. I started going through our old photos, trying to pinpoint the exact moment it all flipped. Was she faking it in that New Year's photo? The one where she's looking at me like I'm the only guy on Earth? What about our anniversary dinner? Or that weekend trip to the lake in April? When exactly did my fiancée become such a damn good actress? The more I dug, the more I felt like I was reading about a stranger. This wasn't the woman who used to cry at ASPCA commercials or who spent 3 hours making a get-well card for Mrs. Johnson down the hall. This was someone else, someone molded by Tessa into a walking, talking Instagram quote machine. And for about 3 months after she left, I had a front-row seat to the Lena and Tessa show, watching their whole Miami glow-up unfold like some low-budget reality series. They were everywhere: rooftop bars, beach parties, designer boutiques. Every post came with a cringe hashtag like #LivingAuthentically, #ChoosingMe, or the most ironic one, #NoRegrets. Miles was always lurking in the background of their stories. Sometimes right next to Lena in those accidental group shots. Other times you just hear his voice off camera, laughing or saying something smug. They thought they were being slick, but it was so obvious it was painful. Subtlety wasn't exactly their strong suit. Lena had turned into a clone of her sister. Gone was the woman who loved lazy Sundays in pajamas with a true crime podcast. Now she was all crop tops, lip gloss, and daily affirmations. She even started her own so-called wellness coaching business, just repackaged versions of Tessa's overpriced workout plans. And yep, she even adopted Tessa's weird influencer voice, complete with vocal fry. It was like watching someone have a quarter-life crisis on livestream. But then, about 3 months into their fabulous new life, the universe decided to stir the pot. I was scrolling through Instagram one morning, sipping coffee, mentally preparing for another day of faking it through work, when I saw it. Tessa's post. She was standing on a beach in Malibu, not Miami, and that's important, wearing a white bikini and holding up her hand to show off this massive engagement ring. The caption read, "He asked. My soul said yes. Ready to start forever with my twin flame." Now you might think, okay, Tessa got engaged. So what? But here's the kicker. The guy TechBro Blake, yes, that was literally his handle, was a startup founder from Seattle. Apparently they'd been secretly dating for 6 months. And they were moving to Seattle immediately. That's right. The same sister who had spent months lecturing Lena about how marriage was a patriarchal trap and how settling down in your 20s was selling out was secretly planning her own wedding the whole time. You seriously can't make this stuff up. And how did Lena find out? Same way the rest of us did on Instagram. According to my buddy Mike, who's still in touch with Lena's brother Eric, she had an absolute meltdown. She called Tessa screaming, accused her of betrayal and hypocrisy. And Tessa? She just hit her with the same spiritual nonsense she'd been feeding Lena. "I'm following my truth. The universe has a plan." But wait, it gets even better. Remember Miles? The guy who was supposedly everything I wasn't? Turns out Mr. Perfect was juggling Lena and at least 3 other women at the same time. One of them found out, gathered receipts, and made a whole TikTok about it. Screenshots, videos, the whole thing. It went semi-viral in their little Miami scene. Lena tried to play it cool online, posting things like, everything happens for a reason and trust the journey, but behind the curtain she was unraveling. Without Tessa footing the bill, oh yeah, turns out Tessa was bankrolling a lot of their fabulous lifestyle. Lena started to fall apart. Her little wellness business wasn't making any real money. She had to move out of Tessa's apartment when it went up for sale. And suddenly she was stuck. Stranded in a city she didn't know, surrounded by fake friends who disappeared the second the champagne stopped flowing. The final cherry on top? One night, probably drunk and heartbroken, she posted this long, rambling Instagram story about how some people aren't who they say they are and true sisters don't abandon you. She even tagged Tessa in it. Tessa's response? She blocked her. On everything. Just like that, the whole fake, glittery house of cards came crashing down. All those daily quotes about growth and light and self-love vanished, replaced by vague, sad posts about healing and learning the hard way. And me? I watched it all unfold from the comfort of my couch, usually with Mr. Nibbles curled up in my lap. Was it petty that I felt some satisfaction? Maybe. But after everything they put me through, watching karma finally clock in for its shift felt damn good. By then, I'd started pulling myself together again. Got back into the gym. Turns out heartbreak is hell on your soul, but it's great for your biceps. Picked up my old hobbies. Finally finished restoring that vintage record player I'd been putting off for years. Even started enjoying my own company again. Mr. Nibbles and I had our rhythm. Morning coffee on the balcony. Work. Most nights, I'd wind down with a book or some video games. Nothing flashy. Nothing you'd brag about online. But it was calm. Quiet. The kind of peace that doesn't get many likes, but man, it felt good. And then came Nora. Now, don't get me wrong, this wasn't one of those cheesy movie moments where our eyes met across a crowded cafe and everything froze. Nope. We met at one of the dullest places on earth, a tax law conference in Chicago. I was there representing my firm, doing my best not to doze off during a painfully dry session about recent changes in retirement account regulations. Then someone asked this sharp, thoughtful question about Roth IRA conversions, and I actually turned around to see who it was. That's when I saw her, this woman in a perfectly tailored navy suit, wearing these smart glasses and rocking a subtle undercut that made her look like she could argue a Supreme Court case and ride a motorcycle. Total boss. During the break, I worked up the nerve to talk to her. About the Roth IRA question of all things. Yeah, I'm that much of a finance nerd. Don't judge. Her name was Nora. Turned out she was a tax attorney, brilliant, sharp, could go toe-to-toe with anyone on fiscal policy, but also funny. Not that fake influencer funny either. She had this dry, deadpan humor that made even tax code sound entertaining. I was hooked. We ended up ditching the rest of the afternoon panels and spent hours at this little cafe near the venue, talking about everything from tax brackets to true crime podcasts. Turns out we're both obsessed. It was effortless. No show. No act. Just real. After the conference, we started texting. Then came the video calls. Then came the 3-hour drives, trading weekends between our cities. Nora was different. In the best way. She was ambitious, yeah, but not in that hollow #girlboss kind of way. She worked hard because she genuinely loved what she did, not because she needed to prove anything to the world. The first time she came to visit me, she brought her own coffee beans. Said she couldn't trust a man who didn't know how to do a proper pour-over. We made a total mess of my kitchen, but it was the most fun I'd had in months. She didn't ask about the missing wedding photos. Didn't comment on the brand new couch or the empty walls. She just made coffee, helped me sweep up the grounds, and suggested we try making French toast next, with orange zest, because apparently she's also a breakfast snob. That's why, when Lena showed up at my door on a rainy October night, I wasn't mad anymore. I was just tired. She looked exactly how you'd imagine someone who watched their perfect little Instagram life crash and burn. Mascara running, soaked hair, clutching her phone like it might save her. Can we talk? She asked, her voice shaking. Classic Lena timing. Probably saw the photo I posted of Nora and me at my cousin's wedding and figured it was now or never. I let her in. Because I'm not heartless. Mr. Nibbles took one look at her and bolted into the bedroom. Smart cat. She sat down on the couch, the new one, not the one we picked out together, and immediately started crying. What came next was as predictable as it gets. How she made a huge mistake. How Tessa manipulated her. How Miles turned out to be a typical player, shocking. How she missed our life. How she realized what she'd thrown away. The old me might have crumbled at that. Might have seen it as some cosmic sign that we were meant to find our way back. But the man sitting there? He was thinking about how Nora and I had spent the weekend building a ridiculous blanket fort because it was raining and we were bored, and how we'd ended up talking about our actual future, not just one we could post about online. I think we could try again, Lena said, looking at me with those green eyes that used to stop my heart. I'm different now. I know what I want. I stood up, walked over to the kitchen counter where my phone was charging, and pulled up the photo from my cousin's wedding. It was a candid shot, Nora laughing at something my drunk uncle said, her hand on my chest, and me looking at her like she was the best thing that ever happened to me. I held it out to Lena. I'm different now too, I said quietly. And I know what I want. The look on her face, that moment she realized not everything could be undone with a tearful apology and a fairy tale comeback story, it was sobering. She started crying again, but I didn't feel the pull to comfort her. Not this time. You should go, I said gently. It's late. And Nora's coming over for breakfast. She's teaching me how to make croissants from scratch. Lena paused at the door, turned around one last time. Are you happy? She asked, like it was impossible to imagine me finding joy without her in the picture. I thought about Nora. About our shared love of true crime and terrible finance puns. About how she listens when I ramble about retirement accounts and still sends me memes in the middle of work. About the peace. The laughter. The way it all feels so real. Yeah, I said. I really am. After she left, I texted Nora, you're not gonna believe who just showed up. Her reply? Perfect. Do we need to make stress croissants tonight instead of waiting for morning? I can be there in 3 hours with emergency butter. And that's when I knew sometimes the worst things that happen to you are just detours to the best things in your life.